John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J. Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show, episode 139. For those keeping track at home, we have so much to talk about today. I'm joined by John Fredericks, Jack Fredericks, Mitch Rogers. We have so much to talk about. We have to react to the national title game that was on Monday. We have to talk about just the flurry of head coaching hires that have been happening in the NFL over the last few days into last night. I woke up this morning and was talking to Jack and realized I'd missed a couple of coaching hires, so we had to add a few to the run sheet. We have so many coaching hires to talk about, and we will talk about why your favorite team hired the worst coach possible. It could go either way. And then we'll be breaking down all of the weekend's action in the second hour. We'll be talking about the two games upcoming. We'll be talking about Washington, Philly. We'll be talking about Bills, Chiefs, what to expect, what we're looking for, all of that good stuff in the second hour. So stick around. It's going to be an NFL heavy slate. But first, we're going to start with a little college. But before we do any of that, we're going to be giving out some picks in a little bit. And if you have a gambling problem, I want you to remember that this is for entertainment purposes only, and call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org. If you live in Massachusetts, call 877-GHOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY if you're in New York, 877-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700. If you live in Kansas or New Hampshire, 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. If you're in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or visit opgr.org. If you're in Oregon, this show has been brought to you by Native Path. Big college and family around here. John's using it. Jack's using it. I'm using it. Mitch is using it. And CEO of the company's using it. Everybody uses it. As you get a little bit older, your body starts needing a little bit more collagen, more than you can get through diet and more than your body can sort of produce on its own. So what do? Get a little supplement to support your hair, nails, skin, joint health. It's helped John lose quite a bit of weight, and you can get started on your own collagen journey by going to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Getnativepath.com/Godzilla. That'll get you up to 45% off. I think you can get started on your collagen journey for just about a little less than $1 a day. So, premium deal right now. Go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla. All right, let's get going here. The national title game, it was, I think, as we expected. I mean, I think that in our hearts, we thought maybe Marcus Freeman will rally the Irish and maybe it'll be a good game. But I think that in deep down, most of us kind of expected Ohio State to roll as they had done through the entire playoff. And they did that again. It was not a terribly exciting game. It never really felt like it was in doubt. What were your guys' thoughts to the national title game and just sort of reaction, I guess, to the college playoff itself? I mean, as far as the college playoff itself goes, I loved it. I mean, I thought it was great to have a lot of high stakes games. I thought it was a lot of fun. What did you guys think?
I'll be pithy. After losing a string of college games on Godzilla Wins, I don't know how many I lost, but I have a very bad losing record. I finally ended the season with a win on Ohio State minus whatever the spread was. That was about the extent of my involvement in that game. I cashed a ticket. Yay.
Cash a ticket. Yeah. You were a little busy on Monday. Mitch, what did you think?
I mean, you know what? Notre Dame coming off to a over 9-minute drive, opening touchdown. I mean, they brought hope. It looked like it was about to be a good game as they almost took the entire first quarter on that first drive. But yeah, ultimately ended as we thought. Will Howard is I don't know why he is a second round, third round quarterback grade. I'm just not good at that stuff because when you look at him with your eyes, that looks like a kid that could play in the NFL at some point. But yeah, I think ultimately Ohio State just was there was too much, and ever since the Michigan loss, they've just been on a mission, and they have been the most talented team all year, and they finally proved it with the national title. And the overall, yeah, yes, the playoffs are awesome. I'm a football junkie, so intermingling, it was almost a perfect intermingling of NFL playoffs and the college playoffs. So when we wouldn't have an NFL night, you'd have a college night during these playoffs. So yeah, during the holidays, and we had a lot of snow around here. It snowed in our families a lot, so it was nice to have a lot of football on. So
yeah, it was basically like football every day from like the end of December, like through January. Which is awesome.
And then you mix in the Poulon Weed Eater Bowl and all those little tiny bowls,
yeah,
man.
Absolutely.
Come on,
yeah.
Let's go.
I'm definitely going to be watching the Bahamas Bowl. Yeah.
Duke's Mayo.
I do like the Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah, dude. They play it on it looks like a high school field. There's like metal features, and it's just like kind of like they're like, well, we can use this. This is kind of a lot of grass.
Well, John, didn't you go to the WVU or the tournament that West Virginia was in Bahamas?
Yeah, we went to Nassau to watch.
Not a bad spot to watch.
Yeah, because they invite only so many teams, and it's a revolving basis, right? So they can't go for another 5. So we saw that on the schedule. We're like, okay, this was Thanksgiving weekend. This is where we got to go. So, but that was great. I mean, the Nassau tournament. Unfortunately, again, we can't go back for a number of times, but that was when WVU upset Gonzaga, number 1 team, beat Arizona. So, you kind of got to feel that this team was going to be for real. And of course, they beat Iowa State the other day. Now they play the Cougars at home on Wednesday. The roof is going to come off that play, so it's going to be fun. But that was we had a fun time.
Bahamas.
You're talking about West Virginia basketball. They are pretty good.
Yeah,
we should probably work that on.
No,
the schedule.
just saying Bahamas is fun to go.
Yeah, I mean they're a top 25 team now. I mean they're like a legit team.
Yeah, I forgot about them. So look, the national championship game. My thoughts are kind of threefold. I think the first is that the NIL, like just paying everyone for as much NIL money as you can get your hands on, is a useful strategy. I mean, Ohio State purchased
$20 million by a pretty good team.
Yeah, I think Quinshawn Judkins is a great example of where the NCAA is. This was he dominated the national championship game because he's incredible. Bunch of touchdowns in that game. Notre Dame had a lot of trouble stopping him. I mean, I know Ohio State has a couple other running backs, but Judkins kind of stole the show on Monday night. Judkins was Ole Miss's running back the year before that. Ole Miss had a lethal offense. They usually do, but between the Jackson Dart, the quarterback, and Quinshawn Judkins, people were looking at Ole Miss going into next year as possibly a team that could make a lot of noise in the college football playoff. Judkins then transfers kind of out of the blue because he's offered an incredible amount of money, goes to Ohio State, wins a national championship. So on the one hand, I think, if you want to be competitive in college football, you have to do what Alabama and Auburn and Georgia have been doing for like 30 years, which is pay everyone the maximum amount of money you can get your hands on. I think that's probably the first now that it's legal, I think that's probably everybody needs to have that strategy in place. That's number one. Number two, the actual game. Yeah, I mean, I tried to make a case for Notre Dame on the show because it's just boring to have everyone on the show pick the same team. But I mean, Ohio State was a better team. They dominated the front seven. They're so big up front. They kind of dominated the line. Riley Leonard is one of those guys who likes to run the ball a lot. 17 rushes for 40 yards. If Notre Dame can't run those kind of designed QB keepers, it really stifles their offense. They like to run the ball anyway, which is always a problem if you get down by 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns or whatever. It's just hard to get the ball down the field quick enough to catch back up. Defensively, they didn't really even play that well either. Ohio State really, because that first drive you thought, okay, well, Notre Dame control the clock, run the ball, limit the turnovers, you got a chance. But Ohio State just scored so quickly after that, and so yeah, it wasn't the most interesting game. As far as the college football playoff, and this is my number 3, I liked it. I think that it gave us a national champion who may have been out of the top 4 because of the Michigan loss. So if you're interested in making sure this is the most equitable way we hand out national championships, maybe this is the best the best we've come up with so far. But overall, I'd like to see it expand to 16 teams. I still think that there were so many blowouts. There weren't really that many good games. Arizona State, Texas was a great game. What was it? Penn State, Notre Dame, right? That came down to the wire. A couple others, but for the most part, lots of blowouts. Yeah. And so, maybe it was awesome, but at the same time, I don't know. I hate to just watch blowout after blowout after blowout, but that is college football. That's been happening forever. We don't always get good college football national championships.
Well, and I think that the argument for expanding the playoff that I've been sort of thinking about that I didn't really hear a ton of people talking about is that it incentivizes kids not to sit out the bowl game. Not kids, but it incentivizes the student athletes not to sit out the bowl game in a way that they were really struggling with for the last couple of years before that. So we get more teams that are bringing their full team, right? Because even before the college football expanded, some of those bowl games just didn't really have the cachet anymore because of conference realignment, because they're getting so much money in NIL, because they're going to transfer anyways. Nobody, the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl or whatever, used to be big games, but if they weren't part of the college football playoff when it was 4 teams, then nobody really cared that much. Even they were sitting out even those big bowl games that, used to mean something in the sort of proud days of the Big Ten and the Pac-12. They don't mean anything anymore. So what you get is sort of real games that people care about, because at the end of the road is a potential for going to a national title game. So, in that aspect, we just got so many more meaningful games than we have in the past, couple of years that was sort of nice.
Yeah, I will say the championship game didn't seem like it had the hype that it had in recent years, despite being on ESPN, despite them having, the week before they had the wild card round. So I guess they didn't have the NFL games to really pimp it out, because they were plugging it the week before, but that certain weekend before the Monday, ESPN didn't have any games. So it's almost like I didn't see any, it almost just like my friend was like, "Hey, national championship game. What are we doing tonight?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot." So I think they need to, they need to tweak it a little bit. It'd be nice to have that game on a Saturday maybe, or a right. I don't like these games that aren't around New Year's. When I was a kid, when I'd go visit my grandparents in Pittsburgh, we would sit around and I knew I'd have to go back home the next day. But that last day, that boring January 1st day was football. And the season ended that day or that night, and it was just over. And I like that just from a historical traditional standpoint. Going all the way a couple weeks into January, I'm kind of already out of college football a little bit, just from a traditional standpoint.
If you do what you're saying, then the national champion is playing football almost on a consistent week to week basis from September 1st to New Year's Day, because there's no way for them to take a break. There's also no way for the college football season, like the NCAA, to let some of these other bowls breathe a little bit and get a lot of attention.
Imagine if you're a student and want to take exams.
Yeah,
if we're pretending that some school.
I think I don't know how you fix the scheduling issue. I think
you can't.
Yeah. Like the thing with the NFL is like it doesn't matter. Like the NFL dominates everything when it comes to sports. So if you're gonna butt up against the NFL playoffs, then you're always gonna lose. I don't know if that's the reason that this game was not as hyped as other games. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that not everybody was a Notre Dame believer. You know, some years we get really like you get two teams and you're really excited about the potential of like an amazing game. And a lot of times we get those games. I don't think anyone really felt like, I mean, the spread was 8.5, you know what I mean? Like nobody really felt like Notre Dame was going to put up much of a fight.
Yeah, but we've had upsets in the past. I mean, I remember when, BYU or something did that play at the end. They were like a 15, 16 point underdog and won. So we've had upsets in the past. Right. I remember one year, I think Ohio State -7 and Florida blew them out. I mean, the game was over at the half. So we've had I think I'm agreeing with everybody. I'll add one thing. I think it became like college football fatigue. There was just so many games.
Yeah, it was just
so long. It just went on and on and on and on. And then of course, of all things, if it was on the 19th or the 18th or the 22nd, but I mean, they were competing with the inauguration of President Trump, which was covered globally because of what happened to him and everything. And it was wall to wall coverage. So like, we were sitting in the Capitol Rotunda when the game was playing. I mean, there was no way you were gonna. I mean, it couldn't compete. It just couldn't compete on the networks with that. I mean,
I don't know. Like, there's plenty of people. Just because you were like on in a rooftop bar doesn't mean that.
Deny that was a big
with Kid Rock.
That was a big
also. I'm not sure.
In the news. It was a big story in the news. That's all I'm saying.
The inauguration took place at like 9 a.m. I mean, I just
don't
know.
No, it was all night.
He made it go on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, look. You have a right.
No, I mean, this is
okay.
Like this.
That's
right.
like
yeah. No, I don't agree with that at all.
You got to tell me the biggest event in news in the last 2 decades didn't affect the game.
That's not the biggest
dominated
in the last 2 decades.
What are you talking about? The last 2 decades? Like, stop being ridiculous. Like the inauguration took place at 9 a.m. and the college football playoff took place at 9 p.m. If you're a regular person like me who like has, just regular life stuff, then you watch the inauguration at 9 a.m. and then you watch the college football playoff at 6 p.m. and you're not like, oh my God, I have to watch the 15th like inaugural ball on CNN. Nobody watches that stuff. So
the reason the village people.
But Jack, we weren't.
You brought this up. You brought this up. So don't. No. You brought this up. Let me finish my
argument and just cut me off.
No, I can't. That's how they do it on CNN and Fox News all the time. I just did it. I went.
So from an anecdotal standpoint, we didn't know the national title game started at 8. We had inauguration stuff on at like 7:15 and 7:35, and someone's like, the game's on, right? And we flipped. We flipped.
I just this is not like this argument is ridiculous because like people who follow college football watch the national championship. People who follow presidential politics watch the inauguration. Like some people watch it on a split screen. Great, fine, whatever. I don't even know what the ratings were for the college football playoff. The bigger issue here is that nobody wanted to watch Notre Dame and Ohio State. Because they knew the game was going to be a blowout. It was a blowout. If it was a good game, people would have watched it. So all this other nonsense is just, like you guys just like weaseling your way into a conversation that has nothing to do with anything. It's just like you took an entire conversation and you just weaseled your way into it. Let's move on now because now I'm tired of this nonsense.
All right, we can move on. We have a lot of coaching hires. We had some stuff about. We're going to talk about Jaden Daniels here in a little bit, but I kind of want to just get going on some of these coaching hires, just because we have some that have been happening sort of late after we put together a run sheet. Notably, we have the two big ones that happened sort of late in the day were Pete Carroll got hired by the Raiders. They hired a 74-year-old man to take the helm of their what will probably be a decades-long rebuild. So by the time Pete Carroll is 112 years old, they'll be like maybe vying for a Super Bowl. And then The Cowboys have decided to remain mediocre, and they hired Brian Schottenheimer to be their head coach. I mean, I guess we can start with Pete Carroll. Like, where's the wisdom in hiring a 74-year-old man to be the head coach of a team that has basically no hope of success anytime in the near future? I mean, they have no quarterback.
I'm gonna be the contrarian here. I love the hire by Mark Davis. I thought it was a brilliant hire. That one thing, if you're looking at that ball club, one thing that they need is some kind of mature, reasonable stability that makes sense. Because Mark Davis has not had that at that Raiders. They got a beautiful stadium. They play in Vegas. It should be fun. You know, they were never the same since the Gruden debacle that went down there. And Antonio Davis just, you know, he just couldn't coach. You get these guys, they're OC, DC. They're not head coaches. Okay, like my guy on Tennessee, nice guy, not a head coach, has to go, whatever. But I love this hire because what Mark Davis said is the first thing we need to do is get this organization stabilized. We're going to stabilize it with maturity. The guy's going to bring young people in. Look, you're not going to take this job at 74 if you don't think that you've got the energy to bring in all the assistants that are your dream team and then turn it over to somebody else maybe in a couple, 3 seasons. But he is going to bring maturity, all the things the Raiders didn't have. Penalties all over the place, undisciplined team, running their mouths, all the stuff that didn't happen in Seattle, okay? Nobody can argue with the Seahawks plan for success. Didn't work out this particular season, but they've had good teams for a long time. I don't like Pete Carroll's politics at all. He's a jackass. But coach, I take down a heartbeat. I thought Mark Davis, great move.
I mean, I think that there's some elements that of your argument for Pete Carroll that are sort of compelling. I mean, I think that this idea that, you know, Pete Carroll is the ultimate players coach. You know, and for a locker room that's sort of in free fall, like you can be sure that Pete Carroll is going to at least have these guys like kind of motivated to play. I mean, that is really his strongest suit, sort of as a head coach.
Well, they're not going to mess with him. I mean, you're not going to get in there and screw around with Pete Carroll, 74 years old, has been to Super Bowls. At 74, he can still kick your ass by sitting your ass on the bench or cutting you because he doesn't care. I mean, I think that's the beauty of this, and I think that's really what the Raiders needed. Look, I'm not a Mark Davis fan. I'd hate to be a Raiders guy because I don't think he's a good owner. He's right up there with Jerry Jones and Amy. But I think this was his crown jewel move, and I think it's going to pay off for a very long time.
Yeah, and I think the jury's out. You got to see what staff he builds around him. But I agree with you. I like the hire. I mean, he's a winner everywhere he goes. He might be 74, but when you have a young 74-year-old energetic, it just, like you said, Nate, it just riles up the players. Players want to play for him. Russell Wilson was just on the Pat McAfee show talking about how great of a coach Pete Carroll was, and he wasn't ready to take that advising role. He still wants to be in the muck, coaching kids and doing what he does best. So he needs to assemble a staff around him. And this is a juxtaposition from where they just were. They had a young coach, a guy that was just playing football 5 or 6 years ago. Now this is, the complete opposite, but still a guy who goes out there and in practice whizzes footballs like a 30-year-old. I mean, he's just inspirational and he's a winner. He wins everywhere he goes. And until that track record goes away, why not give him a shot? And it wasn't the traditional hire. And I like the move by the Raiders because they normally go for the flashy, whatever they can do right away. And this kind of sets him back a little bit, shift down a little bit, reset. Now get a good staff around him and he can make it happen because, I mean, Pete Carroll might be old, but he is not stuck in his ways. I mean, he'll have innovative systems. He'll have a great defense, and let's see what offense he gets.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, you hate old people. You hate all old people. You have age bias.
Yeah, age is
old.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of this. Pete Carroll is outside of Russell Wilson in that incredible Legion of Boom in the NFL. I'm not sure what evidence I have that he is going to rebuild an organization and take them anywhere past 6 wins, which gets you nothing in the NFL. Like the Raiders can win 6 or 7 games with a lot of different coaches. They don't have a quarterback, which probably would have been my first priority, not hiring the oldest coach known to man. They don't really have a defense. They're just like organizationally, they're just like a mess. This isn't like hiring Dan Campbell in Detroit and completely shifting the culture. Like, I mean, he's 74. Like, I just don't. I mean, even if he's the greatest 74-year-old coach ever, I understand coaches as a general manager or whatever, but like, there's just there were other people that you could have looked at, and this just to me seems like one of those situations where these owners don't have any, creativity. And then the idea that somehow Mark Davis finally makes the right decision, that makes no sense.
Well,
like
sure,
all he does is take.
What,
No, it
can't
doesn't.
you-
No,
can't
no,
you
it doesn't.
address-
All he does
Can't
is.
you at least acknowledge that Pete Carroll will bring legitimate, mature stability to an organization whose locker room is in constant disarray and turmoil? Can't you even acknowledge that, Jack?
No, I don't know what. Like these are adults. I don't understand the maturity argument. Like what are they, like 14 years old and you need to teach them like how to be like, how to like send a thank you card when someone gives them a gift. Like I don't know what maturity means. These are like NFL players. They play for a paycheck first and foremost, and then they play for the Las Vegas Raiders. So I don't really buy this.
Well, that's the
maturity
problem.
argument.
That's what you just said is the problem. They're
No,
playing
that's
for
the
a
problem.
paycheck.
That's the problem for every single. I mean, that's the NFL. If you listen to any NFL player over the last 20 years talk about like their motivation and what it's like to play like a retired football player, that's what they talk about. They talk about the paycheck because this is a job just like any other job. And so this idea that like somehow Pete Carroll needs to bring maturity and stability to the locker room. I mean, they have an owner who's immature and unstable. So like, how does like Pete Carroll solve?
There's so much like
that?
foundational institutions.
Yeah,
Like,
so,
but they got new ownership. I mean, they got Brady in the fold, right up there.
I mean, I guess like
that's
my
another
thing,
reason to hate it.
my thing is
Brady.
like is like Pete Carroll. Okay, so let's just assume for the purposes of this argument that Pete Carroll is the ultimate players coach. He does get guys motivated. Like, why wouldn't he go somewhere that just looks like they need a little bit of like that thing, like Dallas, like Jacksonville, like Chicago? Like, there are so many places where they're kind of close, and then like maybe all they need is just like a guy that can kind of put it together. And like Vegas is probably the farthest away from that, like in terms of like being close. Like I just don't get. I mean, but then now we can talk about the Cowboys head coaching hire, which was Brian Schottenheimer. For those that are saying who the heck is Brian Schottenheimer, he's been the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys for the last season. Before that, he was a coaching analyst for a year. Prior to that, he worked as the passing game coordinator under Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. And before that, he was the offensive coordinator for a couple of seasons in Seattle. Coach's son, legendary coach Marty Schottenheimer's son. The Gen Z kids might call him a Nepo baby. Little nepotism here. Brian seems to have just gotten a lot of jobs in the NFL without showing a lot of results. I mean, why can't the Cowboys just hire someone good? Like, why do they have to do this every time? Why fire Mike McCarthy because the offense sucks and then just elevate his offensive coordinator that had a terrible offense?
I mean, it sounds like they thought for sure McCarthy would take that lower cut deal, and when he didn't, they were just left scrambling. And it sounds like they only talked to Dion a little bit. It wasn't even like a real interview, and they've only interviewed like 2 people.
Bit. They interviewed Leslie Frazier. They interviewed Robert Saleh, and then they interviewed Kellen Moore. Those were their 3 like actual.
See,
interviews.
this is why the Cowboys are like ridiculous. There are so many like hot coordinators right now, and you're like wasting your time with Robert Saleh. I don't understand what this move was or why do it. Like if you're like Mike McCarthy can, and Dad defends Mike McCarthy all the time. I'll do it now. as well. He can get you 10 wins. Like, he can do it. He can get you 11 wins. He's not like a disaster as a coach. So if you fire him, then you need to feel like there is a horizon in which you can, move
Like there's
towards
someone that's going to be better.
Yeah, like the manifest destiny of the Cowboys. Like, you're just moving towards this like future. And it's just instead they just are like, well, it worked when we hired Jason Garrett from, Parcells staff or whoever that was before Jason Garrett. And so we'll do it again. And this is like ridiculous. I mean, this is another move where it's just
Jason Garrett back, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I agree with the Carroll hire. I think I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I think the hire sucked. I mean, he doesn't bring anything to this thing. And this guy, these coordinators that have been passed over a bajillion times are passed over for a reason. So I just like, what does he inspire? And I didn't see that move at all. I mean, if you're going to fire or part ways, whatever you want to call it, not re-engage, cancel Mike McCarthy, who kept winning games there. He's winning games his whole career, and he's a great football coach. You're going to get rid of him and bring in some, coach's son that basically has bounced around at various coordinators. I mean, I don't see that how inspires these huge fan base of the Cowboys. Like, inspire them. Like,
well, how does it inspire?
One of the worst iterations of the Cowboys offense in recent years.
Well, he's been on the coaching staff and had his play calling ability taken away a few times because Mike will come back in and do that when they're struggling. So you've already seen him be emasculated in front of the players, before having some duties take away. I mean, I think the bottom line is it's the owner, general manager, Jerry Jones. This guy is just going to be a lackey and just do whatever he wants. And that's the problem. And that's why they can't get any coordinators. Nobody wants to go somewhere where they can't even have any input on the players that come in. They can't shop for any of the groceries. They're in Jerry's world. So it's just not a destination spot. And Mike McCarthy may have been the best you had, a potential close to Hall of Fame coach that will do that. And you had him. And perhaps with this hire, you might as well have just kept him. It makes no sense. It just sounds like their plan just failed. Like he'll take less money.
It makes no sense. I mean, if they hired Vrabel or something? Okay, I get it, right? So they had to iron another coach, and they just wanted a complete change in there. But they hired the guy's offensive coordinator, who 2 times he took the play calling signals away from him. I saw that, and I'm like, I honestly thought when I saw it, I had to check to be sure I didn't see it on The Onion or like Babylon Bee, because that's what I was like. No, there's no way they did that. So
I think they missed their opportunity with Dan Quinn a couple of years ago. I mean, that's who they should have elevated. If you were going to elevate somebody, elevate Dan Quinn. And to stick with the Washington thing, I don't know why if you're looking for an offensive mind, why not interview Cliff Kingsbury? Why not wait until the playoffs, the Washington's run is over? I mean, he's done a terrific job with Washington's offense. Nobody can stop them. He's got a gift in Jaden Daniels, but it's not like Dak Prescott can't play football. I mean, absolutely he can. He might not be always the most clutch quarterback in history, but they also have him signed for like 7,000 years. So that's
you're paying him $60 million a year or whatever.
Yeah,
like, you got to figure something out.
Yeah, like why not Cliff Kingsbury? You know what I mean? So there were other options that they could have pursued, and they didn't, because that's the Cowboys. And what Jerry Jones wants is what Mitch is saying. He wants like loyalty. He wants fealty. He wants a coach who's going to do what Jerry Jones wants, and that's why he elevates from within all the time, because they know the quote unquote Cowboys culture, and all the Cowboys culture means is that the owner can play football man with his toys. So I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this hire either. I think 0 for 2 Raiders, 0 for 1 Cowboys, 0 for 2. We can keep going. All these coaches suck.
I mean, so the nightmare scenario is that, I mean, maybe this isn't a nightmare scenario. Maybe this actually, there's like a universe where this works, but like the early rumblings for like the staff that Schottenheimer is going to put together is that Matt Eberflus is like strongly running to be the defensive coordinator. Which just feels like a lot of cooks in the kitchen at that point now. Like now it's just, okay. So we have just an abject failure as a head coach, just coming back to be a DC in Dallas, but still thinking that maybe he's got a little head coach juice. Like then now it's just a mess. Like, so
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I want to give myself a shout out. I called Josh McDaniels to New England last week. Just want to let you know, and you guys all poo-pooed it. So Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator, just go through me. I knew it was coming.
he's a great offensive coordinator, and he loves New England.
Well, I tell you
All
what, Jerry Jones needs. Maybe, I mean, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but if I was Jerry Jones, boy, I'd be on that internet, my phone right now, and I go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, and I get myself some Healthy Cell, because Jerry, you better lace him up and lace him tight here. You got a football coach in there that doesn't have any coaching experience. You got a team that's in somewhat disarray, that's underperforming. You better step up. But Jerry Jones, you're going to need all the energy, all the health you could possibly have. But the first thing you're going to need, because you're not looking very good these days, right? You're looking a little peaked. You're going to need a good night's sleep, Jerry. Thank you. I mean, the best thing you can do, Jerry, to help yourself, help your team, and help your family is to go to healthycell.com/Godzilla. Get yourself some REM sleep. Put in promo code Godzilla. Get 20% off. I got home last night from DC, took my REM sleep, baby. And I don't know, after Pete Hegseth got confirmed, throw that in. Mitch McConnell votes no, throw that in, old turd. Went right to sleep, got up today at 8, got 9 hours of sleep, slept like a baby. And it's all because of my Healthy Cell. That's how much I have all this energy from Healthy Cell. Just go to healthycell.com/Godzilla. You're going to get a promo code Godzilla. You're going to get you 20% off. I take the multivitamin. I take the REM sleep. I take the focus. And I'm going to be 67 in March. I'm sharp as a tack. It's because of my Healthy Cell. So check this out, guys. I know I've been promoting it. I don't promote anything that I don't use. My whole family's on it, and it's really good stuff. Promo code Godzilla, 20% off.
Jerry's gonna need his Healthy Cell while he watches the Eagles and the Commanders, 2 division rivals.
I know, right?
And he's not having a good week, and he's like, Schottenheimer.
I know.
Yeah, it's like
Eagles Commanders.
It's just pure torture weekend for Cowboys fans. It's like, the worst coach ever. Now he gets to watch 2 divisional rivals who are getting better. And then also don't forget that like the Giants are going to draft their quarterback of the future as well. So, like things are just a disaster.
Oh, the draft is going to be something to behold. I can't remember a draft that's been as much fun as this, because normally, right, you know who the number 1 pick is and who's going to take it, and that's fait accompli. Then you start looking at the down picks. But right now, who knows? I mean, this thing could go in any number of directions with any number of quarterbacks. And with this whole Deion Sanders thing, I know this is on the run sheet, but Jack isn't in to correct me, so yay. Oh God, there he is.
Okay.
Forget it.
Whatever you're about to say, let's
The party's over.
Any interest in the Deion Sanders?
The party's over.
Like, whoa.
Yeah,
When the cat's
I don't know
away,
what
the
you're
mice
about.
will play.
Yeah, go ahead and move on to something else. I don't want to talk Deion Sanders anymore.
I took my shot.
Let's talk instead about maybe a little bit of a better coaching hire while we're just doing coaching hire stuff. Ben Johnson to the Bears. Ben Johnson was probably the hottest coaching sort of candidate last offseason. He opted to turn down all of the head coaching opportunities, returned to Detroit, and all he did was just have his stock just skyrocket in the season. And now he's been hired by the Bears. It was basically, by most accounts, the Bears' really only candidate that they were seriously wanting. They were pretty much just all in on just whatever Ben Johnson needs, Ben Johnson gets. And now they got him. Is this the right hire? Is this the guy that's going to elevate Caleb Williams? I mean, I kind of think, yeah. I mean, I kind of think they nailed this hire. For once, Chicago finally did the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a market improvement over Eberflus. The problem with Eberflus that everybody talked about was
he was a defensive coach.
First of all, I mean, yeah, defensive coach. But then the other thing is the Chiefs are a hard team to understand if anyone who's on the coaching staff is successful. You know what I mean? The Andy Reid is really good at what he does, and Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback since Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback since everybody. So, it's hard to know if any coordinator coming out of Kansas City is actually worth their medal, or if it's just this sort of Chiefs industrial complex at this point.
We had the same conversation about the Patriots.
Absolutely. Now, I think Detroit is a lot different here. I think Detroit has had a lot of success because of Dan Campbell and the culture change, because of the ways in which, because of Jared Goff getting to play in a dome and having a resurgence in his career. But I also think that the Lions have been successful in large part because of two very, very good coordinators who Dan Campbell was able to hold on to for longer than a lot of these coordinators stick around. And I think Ben Johnson's going to be great for Chicago. I think this is a great hire. He stays in the division. He stays in the area. Detroit and Chicago, not that far away from each other. He has a tall order in that he plays in one of the more difficult divisions out there, but he has a great quarterback and a pretty good young core. I think that Chicago should be pretty happy or optimistic with this hire. I mean, this is a guy that everybody has been wanting for years. So to land him as a,
And he's only 38,
it would be so much worse.
so you get a lot of years out of him too.
Yeah.
Like you're not worried about him moving on somewhere else if he does experience success.
No, and you're not going to have anyone better to try to make Caleb Williams that everybody wanted to see this year. So, I mean, he's the perfect hire there. It was kind of weird. I've never seen him ever with his hat off. So in that introductory, when he walked into the Chicago facility with his hat off, he kind of went from that offensive coordinator, young kid, to like a leader right away. And then to like diss on the Packers, saying, I've enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year, every year for the last 3 or 4 years. You just assumed that they were friends, like they had a relationship. And then on NFL Good Morning NFL, Peter Schrager was like, nope, they don't know each other at all. So I mean, so you're coming in with bulletin board material as well against a team that is going to be on paper better than your team. So, he's jumped right in there. And I know some people were up in arms or saying it was unprecedented to make that move in your own division, but that happens all the time, or it feels like it happens more times than not. Like, I don't think Detroit fans should now, spit on Ben's legacy, and then it's supposedly there's an undercurrent that maybe perhaps he didn't have the best relationship at the end with Campbell either. But that's going to happen, probably power struggles and so forth. But yeah, that's the best hire. I mean, Chicago got the number one, the belle of the ball, and let's see what he can do.
I mean, I thought, look, he deserved an opportunity. Campbell held on to him for as long as he could. I personally am old school. I didn't like the Green Bay comment. I did think that was uncalled for. You're going to another team. You're at a press conference. You're trying to lead your team.
Yeah.
Let's let the talking go on the field. But I'm old school, and everybody knew on this panel I was going to hate that comment. It's like, shut up and just talk about the Bears, talk about your future, talk about Fields, talk about the culture you're going to have, and don't be talking about beating Matt LaFleur.
Justin Fields is on the Steelers.
I mean Fields, Caleb Williams. I'm sorry. Talk about Caleb Williams, your new quarterback, all the good things going on, and to say I'm going to, I've enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur too. It's like, that was an immature comment. But I'm old school. I don't like that kind of stuff. Having said that, I think this guy's a great hire. And look, I mean, coming in the Bears, the Bears got a lot of potential. I mean, they have a legit quarterback. They have a legit defense. I mean, there's a lot of great things. They got great fans. There's a lot of great things about taking this Bears job at 38 years old. And, some of these young coaches, though, they fizzle. They just don't work. I remember when Don Shula's son came in to coach the Bengals. He was the youngest coach, 30-something. I mean, that was a catastrophe. Sometimes they just don't work out. But I think, I think this guy's shown that he can get an offense going, and had one of the best offenses in history. Just happened to run into a team that, as I don't know, there's some kind of magic going on there. So I thought it was a good hire.
Yeah, I mean, and so so if Ben Johnson was the belle of the ball, so to speak, the runner-up in the coaching stuff was probably the other coordinator for Detroit. I mean, Aaron Glenn did an incredible job in Detroit, and he also landed a head coaching job, not maybe as desirable as Chicago. But Aaron Glenn is now the new head coach of the New York Jets. I mean, gosh, I mean, how many defensive coaches are you going to hire if you're the Jets and expect to have an offense? How many guys can you give a chance to that are coordinator level type guys that have no real track record of bringing together a locker room in a franchise that seems just irreparably broken at this point. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is almost certainly out the door coming up. So you have no
Maybe.
quarterback. You had real defensive issues with the defensive head coach last season. The offense is basically lifeless. Like, what do you? I mean, so they hire Aaron Glenn, who played for the Jets for 8 seasons. He was a personnel guy, scout for a couple seasons after he retired. This was his dream job. This is where he wanted to come back to. What is there to be excited about if you're
it's an ownership issue again. I mean, as long as you have Woody Johnson and his son just screwing up everything, there's really no hope. And the NFL and ownership is just a weird thing. It's almost like with 26, 27 teams, you never hear of the owners, and you may get a couple good ones but most of the time it's bad. And that's what you're seeing with the Commanders. I know we're getting to that later. Their ownership changes all of a sudden. Their franchise is completely changed. But with the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Jets, there is just really no hope, because of the meddling that these owners do. And if Woody Johnson has his way, I bet you Aaron Johnson is back for 1 year. Hey, have him back for 1 year. Then we'll draft the quarterback in 2026 when the draft is really great. Yeah, I feel you just hope Glenn uses this as a stepping stone to be able. So you just hope it doesn't dampen his career. At this point, you hope you just don't do something so bad, go 0-17 or something where no one will ever hire you again, because it's not your fault. You're with the Jets. It's not your just like Goodwill Hunting. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I mean, again, this is like another really hot coordinator. And this was a good move for New York in that their identity has been defense now forever. I mean, sometimes teams just have an identity. And sometimes it's, this NFL team has an incredible offense. This NFL team has a great defense. This NFL team is very stable, like the Steelers, or this NFL team is very unstable, like the Raiders. And the Jets' identity has been defense.
You're right. They like losing with defense.
Yeah.
But I mean,
right,
the last time they were successful, though, they had a great defense.
Right.
When Mark Sanchez took them to 2 AFC championships, and then even a couple years ago, their defense was incredible. Everybody was just like, they just need a quarterback, and then of course Aaron Rodgers comes in, and all hell breaks loose. But I mean, I think this was a great hire, and I'm with Mitch that it is the Jets. So as long as you don't go 0-17, you probably get another shot somewhere if it doesn't work out. But I do love the hire. I think it's a good one, and I think New York, if they can find a quarterback, should be pretty successful in that division. But how many good quarterbacks are there? There's about 5 of them. So what are you going to
5 years ago, Woody Johnson was ambassador to Ireland, right? I mean, come on. And now he's meddling in a football team. But I do love the hire, and I'll tell you why. I'm a culture guy, and you are what you are until you're not, until you change it. And the Jets culture is defense. That's what they're known for. You play the Jets, house of pain. That's what it should be. And they kind of got away from that a little bit, but that is their signature, and you got to go with that. And I think that's what Woody Johnson and his, I guess, teenage son there, whatever the hell's going on there, what they're trying to do. So I don't think it was a bad hire, but I mean, there's a lot of other coaches out there. Like if I'm the Jets, if I own the Jets, or they just made me GM. I would have hired Mike McCarthy the day he was canceled. And that's really what happened. He was canceled by Jerry Jones. I would have hired him the next day, because I want somebody in there that's got maturity, that can run both sides of the ball, can talk to the media, because this is the New York media. I mean, that's the other thing. You got to be able to talk to me. Robert Saleh was never able to do that. I mean, they chewed him to pieces, spit him out, and crapped on him. I mean, he was just never able to do it. McCarthy can do that. I think he would have been a better hire, but the Jets have a culture of defense. That's what they're going with. I get it.
I mean, yeah. So the culture wins in New York. Another place with great culture is Rosie's Gambling Hall.
Rosie's Gaming. I tell you what, I'm a big horse racing fan. Everybody knows it. Let me just put this on your calendar. Rosie's in Colonial Downs Raceway. Check this out. I've been a supporter of getting horse racing back in Virginia forever. Everybody knows I fought this battle in the General Assembly for a decade. We finally got it back. Colonial Downs. I got a suite there during the meet. It's a gorgeous racetrack right now, right up there with Saratoga Downs. Place is a palace, but they got a second meet going. They got 2 meets now because they got the one in the summer, right? That goes from basically July to September. Now they got another one, 3 days only. Check this out. March 13th, 14th, and 15th, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Colonial Downs, a second meet. Not only that, the Virginia Oaks and the Virginia Derby are both running on Saturday, March 15th, right? Never been done before. And the winner of the Virginia Derby, $1 million purse, the winner of the Virginia Derby gets an automatic bid into the Kentucky Derby in May. That is cool.
Nice.
I don't know
That's
what you guys are doing. If you're anywhere in the area, if you're within 4 hours of Richmond, or you can fly there, go there, get your tickets now. Just go to Ticketmaster.com. You can get $5. They got $5 general admission tickets, but only 5,000. When they're gone, they're gone. And this place is going to get sold out. You're not going to be able to get in. This place is going to be packed, right? But you can also, you've still got time to get on the fourth floor like Ann and I are going to be there. This is going to be this 3 days of racing at Colonial Downs, March 13th, 14th, 15th. This is the crown jewel now of thoroughbred racing. I love what they've done. I love the track. And on the 15th, Virginia Derby, Saturday, March 15th, winner goes into Kentucky Derby. Winner of the Virginia Derby got a shot to win the whole thing, win the Kentucky Derby. That is a very competitive race. It's going to be so much fun, 3 days only. Check it out, colonialdowns.com, ticketmaster.com. $5 gets you in. But once these 5,000 tickets are gone, I understand the other day, Nate told me there's about 1,500 remaining. As soon as they're gone, you're out. Then you got to pay big dollars to get in there. Things are going to be sold out. Get it now.
All right. The last coaching hire that I sort of wanted to talk about before we finish up this hour and sort of transition to previewing this week or tomorrow's games, I guess, is the long and winding road and the very strange 24 hours that led to Liam Cohen being named the Jaguars head coach. He declined an in-person interview so for those of you looking for some context, the Jaguars, Shad Khan, the owner, and Trent Baalke, the general manager, fired Doug Peterson a couple of weeks ago on January 6th, I believe. Shad Khan opted to retain Trent Baalke as GM while they were searching for a new head coach. They interviewed a few people. They interviewed former defensive coordinator for the Raiders, Patrick Graham. They interviewed former New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh. They asked Liam Cohen, the former Bucs offensive coordinator, if he would be interested in an in-person interview. And he said, I don't think so. I don't really want to do that. I said, okay. And they interviewed some people, and then Shad Khan got frustrated and ended up firing Trent Baalke, the GM, amid this coaching search. So now they have no GM, and it's just Shad Khan doing whatever he wants. And then he called Liam Cohen back again and said, hey, would you be interested in an in-person interview now? And Liam Cohen said, yes, I would. And then he got interviewed and basically got hired almost immediately. This was after he had used some leverage to negotiate the highest paid coordinator position for the Bucs, and the contract was just waiting to be signed while he was in an interview with the Jaguars. The Bucs were getting ready to pay about $4 to $5 million per season, and then Shad Khan backed up the truck and offered him 12 to be the head coach, and he said that is too much money to pass it up. What do you make of this? I mean, Shad Khan, there are guys that want to play football, man, with their football toys. And then, Shad Khan feels like he's making the right decision a lot of the time here. But their team still stinks.
This is a freaking clown show. Stop. Stop. Get people in there that know how to run football teams. This is a joke. I don't know what this guy did. I'm a tech guy or something. He doesn't know the hell he's doing, offering coaches $12 million that have never coached. First, if somebody turned me down, I would like to give you an opportunity to be a head coach of a NFL football team that made the playoffs a couple seasons ago and won a playoff game with one of maybe the best quarterbacks in certainly in that conference. No, I don't think I'll interview. Now hey, you want to come back? I just fired my loser GM. I mean, what the hell kind of thing is going on? This is like the whole AFC South is a freaking clown show. The whole thing, the whole bunch of them. I mean, you got to be kidding. This has got to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You guys talked about this earlier. You got these owners meddling. I mean, what a joke. First thing you do is you get a GM, right? Get somebody to run your football operations, knows what the hell they're doing. Get them in there. They go find a coach. Now you got a coach and you're going to hire a GM over him. I mean, that was I know Jack gets he gets crazy when I bring Tennessee up, but that's what happened with us. We got a GM over the coach. Coach doesn't like the GM. Vrabel couldn't stand the guy. Thought he was unqualified. This is like, this is a prescription for a nightmare. That's what Khan has done. Who would take that GM job? Basically, the coach is going to get more money than you are. Give the guy the dual responsibilities and go on a beach somewhere and be done with it. Stupidest thing I've seen this season in football. And again, it gets back to what you guys said. These coaches that don't know crap, meddling in and making decisions, and everyone that's involved in it, it's a catastrophe for their teams and their fans who suffer.
And you can't blame Cohen for what he's done. I mean, even on the first interview cycle, Todd Bowles helped him. He said, "Hey, you of course you're going to interview for this." There was a virtual interview. Bowles gave him some tips and pointers, and the way it transpired, it does stink, and I'm sure there are certain feelings, in Tampa with the way it happened. But if you're a football player and you could get cut in a second, so you can't blame him for taking the job. I just want to know. I want to fly on the wall with the situation with Balky and was it rosy, going into this into the coaching search and then went bad, or was it already frosty going into there? But I think what you have here, and I brought up Jets and ownership issue. What you have here is you have a fake franchise quarterback issue. I just don't think that. I think Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence just hasn't lived up to the bill. So it's one of those situations where you think you have one of the elite quarterbacks, but you probably have a kid ranked 15 to 20th and not top 10, but they sell this team like they have a top 10 quarterback.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We'd have to go down the list. I don't know if he's like 15, but he's definitely not 8,
right.
Not 8. He's been bad. Like he's been bad lately. And I think you're probably right about the Trevor Lawrence stuff, because Doug Peterson can get a lot out of a quarterback. He can win with a pretty mediocre quarterback, and we've seen this sort of just spiral into nothingness again for Jacksonville. I do think, in defense of Shad Khan, as Nate is saying, like, he is not a football guy. He is not trying to play, like glorified GM with his team. That said, he has certainly had trouble creating any type of institutional stability or consistency. Maybe that started with Urban Meyer. I mean, that certainly didn't help the situation. But the Tom Coughlin years, I mean, it's a lot in Jackson. It's a lot for Jacksonville fans to handle, when a couple of years ago, I mean, this was 2 years ago. We were on the show 2 years ago saying, oh my God, Jackson, maybe it was last year, Nate.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, right? Jacksonville won the division and came back in that dramatic fashion against the Chargers. And it was like we all thought, okay, Jacksonville's like on their way up. And we've just seen a total reversal with the same staff, the same quarterback, the same everything. They've just sort of fallen apart. But this is another team that really thrives when they have a good defense, and they have not lately. They're not like, you can win with Trevor Lawrence, I think, but not if your defense sucks. And so I'm not really sure what the Bucs OC is going to bring. Also on the Baker Mayfield side of things, this means he has had 8 different offensive coordinators the last 8 seasons. And he continues to be successful in Tampa Bay. So, just shout out to Baker for sort of having to deal with this nonsense.
Future offensive coordinator.
But I mean, like, the counter argument to like a lot of this is, okay, so Trevor Lawrence has underperformed versus expectations, but Baker kind of did too. And then he had Canales, a couple of seasons ago that kind of resurrected his career in Tampa. And then Canales obviously went to Carolina, and now he's sort of rejuvenated Bryce Young, who had a lot of hype and hadn't produced a lot. And then Liam Cohen comes in, and he continues to get a lot out of Baker Mayfield in ways that other coaches had not been able to. I mean, I think that there's some reason for optimism to think that like Liam Cohen can get something out of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence isn't broken. He's only like 26 or 27. I mean, he's still fairly young. I mean, he's been in the league for 5 years, but I think he came out when he was 21. So, you know, I mean, like Trevor Lawrence isn't like some old, like washed quarterback. Like and there's still like a real.
Nate, he's had two. I don't know what you want to call them, Medicare troubling, not living up to expectation seasons. Like Jack was saying, this is a guy that, you know, 2 seasons ago, San Diego was up 21-0 going into halftime and had a 4th and 1. And had they gone for that game's 28-0, he came back and won that game. You know, then the second season, you know, they get beat in the final game. They get knocked out of the playoffs by Tennessee, who had, you know, 4 wins or something. And this year they were just pathetic. So, you know, he had 2 tough seasons. I don't know what the reason is. They're not a very good football team, but I don't like what's going on. You need stability. And I was shocked they fired Peterson. I mean, I wish the Tides had hired him. I take Peterson. The guy wins games.
All right, we gotta reset for the top of the hour. We are going to be talking all things playoffs coming up for the next hour. So don't change the dial. We're just going to take 1 minute to refresh our coffees and get geared up to give you all of our best picks for tomorrow's games. See you in 1 minute.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Welcome back to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. I am Nate Perry, hosting, joined by John Fredericks, Jack Fredericks, and Mitch Rogers. As always, we are here to give you our.
That's not what I'm doing.
There's quite a bit of noise coming from John.
Yeah, I have to wear my earrings and my bracelet.
And then we can keep talking about what we're getting ready to preview. We are getting ready to preview the AFC Championship game, NFC Championship game. We're going to react to last weekend's games. We're joined by Peter Kriebel now as well. Welcome, Peter, to the show. All right, we got a full crew now. Peter has to come to talk about the demise of the Ravens, and we'll be getting to that in just a second.
Sad.
We're going to be giving out some picks here towards the end of the hour, if not earlier. They are for entertainment purposes only. And if you have a gambling problem, I would urge you to call 1-800-GAMBLER if you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. Call 1-800-327-5050 or go to gamblinghelpline-ma.org if you're in Massachusetts. Call 877-GHOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY if you live in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas or New Hampshire. 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org if you're in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or go to opgr.org if you're in Oregon. This show has been brought to you by Native Path. We are all big believers in the collagen journey here. John's probably firing up his collagen right now. If you're watching live, that's why he's not on the screen. That's why you just see a poster of his son in the background. He's probably refilling his collagen. He's a big believer in collagen, and his wife and the basically boss of our company is also a big believer in collagen. Me, Jack, Mitch, we all use it. We use it because you get a little bit older, you need a little supplemental health. It's hard to get enough collagen in your diet that your body needs, especially as you get older. Collagen supports healthy nail, skin, hair growth, joint health. Help you out on all those fronts. It's helped John on his weight loss journey. Just, a little bit more joint health. It's helped him be a little bit more active to lose some weight. It's been great for everyone. And if you want to get started on your collagen journey, you can go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla, getnativepath.com/Godzilla. You get up to 45% off with that link, getnativepath.com/Godzilla, and you can get started on your collagen journey for about $1 a day. So pretty screaming deal. All right. Let's start. I mean, we're just going to have Peter, we're just going to go to you first. Peter, what happened with the Ravens? The Mark Andrews drop, another just heartbreaking disappointment for the Ravens. What were your sort of takeaways from the game? What were you thinking about? As you were watching it and afterwards.
Yeah, what happened was what happens every year. And for whatever reason, I and everyone else seems to think that we know when it's going to turn around. And it never does. It always ends in humiliation and embarrassment on the goal line. Whether it was, we're talking dating back to 2016, Antonio Brown ending the season, reaching over the goal line.
Christmas.
2021. Or 2022 when Sam Hubbard goes 98 yards on a failed QB sneak. Zay Flowers in 2023, and now Mark Andrews drop on the goal line. It always ends the same way, and I'm the idiot who tricks myself into thinking that it's going to turn around. So, if you want the schematic reason for why they lost, that's out there. We can go into that, but I think that there's something, more underlying with this organization that just seems to hold them back every single year.
Do you think you should have won that game?
More
Straight up.
We were the better team, no doubt. More talented roster. Josh Allen played better, and that mattered.
The Ravens outgained him in yards. It was just, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot played into it. To start, you saw how the Bills, the home field advantage seemed to be real. They had the energy that we didn't. They stopped us. They had a lot of early down success, which if there is one weakness to the Ravens, it's when they get behind the sticks, which is true for every offense, but especially Baltimore, just because, even if it's 2 yards from Derrick Henry, that's big difference from 2nd and 11. And so, the negative plays, it was a huge disparity between, the Bills and the Ravens in that respect. And then, Lamar had two uncharacteristic turnovers that he has not committed all year long. But for whatever reason, it's the playoffs.
Yep.
He's got
Yeah.
football. And, they rally and get down the field. And, of course, pass goes to Mark Andrews, sustained us in our darkest times. That was it. The heart and soul of the organization came in the same year as Lamar. Great story, as a type 1 diabetic, fantastic person. We've relied on him for so many years, and we go to him in the game's biggest moment, and it just bounces off of his chest. And so I feel for Mark more than I do either myself or any other fan. But yeah, it's heartbreaking, and it's the same thing that happens.
Well, Peter, it feels like if there was if you could use one word to characterize the Ravens season, it's lapses. And there is no reason this team is this team should be playing on the road in a divisional game. They're too good for that. So when I say lapses, I mean lapses early on in the season where they just take teams for granted, losing to teams they shouldn't lose to, putting themselves in a situation where they had no shot at the number 1 seed at the end of the year. That's ridiculous for that talent level of a team. The results are they had to play their starters in week 18 and lost Zay Flowers. So the fact that they don't dominate the regular season, which they should, is symptomatic of something. And now Harbaugh's coaching record looks like Tomlin's. It's in the playoffs in the last 10 years with this quarterback and this roster. That is ridiculous. And they're not going to do anything to Harbaugh, but something, you're right, something underlying is happening. And it was just weird watching Lamar Jackson kind of throw that half arm throw for that one interception, not stepping into the throw. Like, you're believing the hype that you can do whatever you want. You're Superman. No, you still have to have good footwork. You still have to do the routine plays routinely. And it feels like they don't do that. They lapse out. Like I said, they should not have been playing their starters week 18. And that cost them.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple things. Just jump in here. So, like, okay, number one, I think that Peter, that you should write your Ravens history. At some point, and you have to title it "Humiliation at the Goal Line." An oral history of the Ravens losses that'd be pretty fantastic. I mean, I think you're right that foundationally there is something that this team can't get over the hump. I mean, like, we watch this script play out every year. We're probably about to watch Buffalo lose to Kansas City again. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, every year it just seems like the Ravens can't get to the championship game. Buffalo, edges them out, and then they lose to Kansas City, and then Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. It's like, oh my God, like, we just live in this Groundhog Day of the AFC all the time. I think, schematically, like, the thing with the Andrews drop is like, okay, so first off, we got the fumble, right? That happens earlier in the game, which was like, again, we don't want to dump on Mark Andrews, but like, Lamar throws two uncharacteristic picks, then Mark Andrews fumbles, which is uncharacteristic of, like, Mr. Reliable on that team. And then, you've got the goal line 2-point conversion. They called up like a pretty good play. I mean, I'm thinking as they're running it, oh my God, like, what's going on? Why not just use Derrick Henry, just run the ball up the middle? But like, that play worked. He's wide open. I mean, he's in the end zone and he's wide open. He falls backwards. He drops a pass. He catches that thing 9 out of 10 times. 9.9 out of 10. I mean, 99 out of 100 times. Like, Mark Andrews doesn't drop that pass but once, and it just so happens that it's in, it's not in the multiverse, it's in the real world. So, I mean, I do think that there is a sort of something a little bit more to be said about kind of the underlying nature of the fact that the Ravens end up in this situation all the time and just can't get over the hump psychologically. But, I mean, Lamar's legacy is the problem. Like, having these just awful playoff games, and I mean, it's not like he was awful, but he threw 2 picks.
One was
like,
I
don't. One was a fumble.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what to do with. I don't know what to do with Lamar in the playoffs. Like, here's this generational quarterback, this guy who, every year perennially the Ravens are a Super Bowl contender, and then he gets in the playoffs and he just can't seem to have a game that is indicative of the success he has in the regular season. And it's got to be frustrating for the Ravens locker room fans, for Harbaugh, to just be in this position over and over.
I think that like the real like Ravens frustration is it's not even that the Ravens didn't play well, or that there was obviously there was that heartbreaking Mark Andrews thing. But I think that the problem for the Ravens a lot of times is that it's just like it feels so unlucky. Like it feels like they did everything they should have. Like it felt like they did enough to win that game. I mean, they outgained Buffalo in total yards, 416 to 273. They averaged 7.3 yards per play versus Buffalo's 4.6. They pass for over 100 more yards than Buffalo. They run for 30 more yards than Buffalo. It was penalties and it was turnovers. That was the game. I mean, Buffalo offense looked stale. I mean, they averaged a little over 4 yards per play. Like, Buffalo didn't play that good. Like, Baltimore did everything they could to win that game. Like, Lamar had a fine game. And it's just like it's never enough, because there's always some sort of like weird fluky thing that happens, whether it's a fumble, interception, drop pass, like horribly timed penalty. It's not that the pass got dropped or that there was an interception thrown. It's just that they happen in like the most crucial moments of the game in a way that that's just bad luck.
Peter, on the 2-point conversion, while you were waiting, sitting there, right? The game was on the line. What play did you think you wanted them to call, and is that what they called? Just walk us through your thinking in that 50 seconds where you knew they had to. That was it.
Yeah.
The whole season was on the line.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that would have loved to see. I mean, John, what did the Titans do? You put Derrick Henry in the direct snap, right? And just, live and die with that big SOB. The problem is, like, I can't say they did anything wrong. Like, they got Andrews isolated on Hamlin, who is not good in coverage. Ran a rub route that created 5 yards of separation and hit him in the chest at the front pylon.
But he pump fakes.
The only thing I would say in defensive market. Yes, the pump fake. The pump
and the
fake,
knuckleball.
Yeah. I mean, maybe, Mark is expecting that ball to get in there quickly.
Right.
Either way, I mean, you got to catch the football. The other part of it is, and this is kind of what you're getting at, Nate, is like they're unlucky, except we're going to do a point where it's like statistically significant. It keeps happening. Like there shouldn't luck is not. Eventually, it flips, right? Eventually, you have your time, and it's just not the case. The other 2-point conversion, it was 19-21, and they had a chance to win the game. And Isaiah Likely, who, by the way, is the best tight end on the football team. Don't get it twisted. He is better than Mark Andrews. I'm not, trashing on Mark Andrews, but it's time. If he isn't tight end 1 next year, don't expect me to watch the games because Likely is better. Anyway, he clears, gets wide open, and there isn't a defender within 10 yards of him. Lamar throws it, and Matt Milano bats it down at the line of scrimmage. And it's like, that's the type of thing where, is it luck? What is it? Are you going to fire the coach because of that? I just don't know where you go from here because you're just waiting for it to flip your way.
Hey, Peter, from that standpoint, so we got into we were having a few spirits down here, and a couple of our friends got into a pretty heated argument. So when it was 21-19, there was like 4 minutes left in the third quarter, right? Something like that. I was screaming, screw these analytics, screw this new football, kick the extra point. This isn't this isn't the end of the game. You kick the extra point there. It's 21-20. Ergo, you don't have to do another 2-point conversion to Mark Andrews at the end of the game, and you are kicking to tie the game. I understand the analytics, and they're saying, but if you don't get this 2-point conversion, you'll get to do it again, and most likely there's a 70% chance you'll get one of them. Kick the damn extra points. If you kick your extra points in this game, you win the game. You've won the game. Like, I don't understand this, and especially in the playoffs. You take points whenever you can. And the fact that they didn't get 2-point conversions cost them the game.
You take them, you don't chase them. I think they were chasing points. I agree with you. I bet Buffalo. I think I took the 1.5, so I was happy they went for the 2. But 3 things I'm going to say. One, I just did. The second one is, Peter, this show for you after a game like this is your analytical therapy. I feel your pain. I've been there. I get it. I appreciate your passion. And you're going to feel better when this hour's over because you get all the stuff off your chest to a national audience.
Well, except when I had to come on and then Peter's on the next week with his Raven stuff.
Well, but
wasn't therapy for me.
I remember talking to Peter. I think you were 12 years old. I think we were in Bath County with your mom and dad at some Republican convention.
We've heard this story.
So I like to tell it. Old guys tell stories over and over. That's one of the things you're going to have to deal with. I'm sorry, but that's what happens when you're 66. So I get he's out in the parking lot. We're talking about the Ravens, and he's like rattling off every player, all their statistics. He was like 11 or 12 years old. I'm like, okay, I've never met a fan at his age like this before, so I feel your pain. But I get the Andrews drop. When that play was unfolding, you direct snap the ball to Henry. You put your big guys in there, and that's how you tie the game. Oh yeah, rolling out, pump fakes, give the ball to the guy who gets in the end zone 7 out of 8 times in that position. I hated the call.
No, that's a stupid take. The guy was wide open. I mean, if DeMar Hamlin had made some amazing defensive play, knock the ball down, and Andrews is standing there in the end zone like, oh my God, then I get it. But I mean, the play was perfect, perfectly drawn up. Andrews is wide open.
They didn't get it.
And he drops the pass. Yeah, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a good play just because it didn't work.
Lombardi, when
That's not how
When
it
you throw
works.
the ball-
No, it's
No,
not.
that's
No,
just
no,
a
it's not how it
scandal.
works. No, it's not how it works.
Talking point.
You're
It's-
just going to
it's
argue
just-
with
yeah,
me no
like,
matter
this
what
is
I
so
say.
nonsense.
That's just your whole day.
Yeah, because you're not saying anything like
Yes, give
useful.
the ball
So,
to Henry
like,
and tie
I
the
mean,
game.
like
That's what's useful.
no.
Yes.
No. Now, I will say, Peter, that it is becoming statistically significant that the Ravens blow these games. Like, these are no longer standard
Well,
deviations.
It's
Harbaugh's
the
legacy.
opposite
That's
side.
Harbaugh's
This
thing.
This is
has
the
everything
arithmetic
break their
means,
way
though.
all the time, right? And I think that's like the perfect foil. It's like we look at Kansas City and we think they're good and they're lucky. Every call at the end of a game goes their way. Mahomes never has that moment where you're like, oh my God, that's horrifying. And then you have the Ravens that are like the complete opposite. And I think like talent level, you look at it and you think like the Ravens probably have more talent. So yeah, it is significant. And it's like, is it?
What annoys me about that is it's like I wish it was uniform. Like if the Ravens were just bad in close games all year, then you would say, okay, we have a problem. Let's get rid of Harbaugh. But they win the close games in big moments in the regular season. But the month of January carries some witch magic that just strips them of all of their abilities.
Hey, Peter, what jersey did you have when you met John? Was it like Ed Dixon? Was it Reed? Michael Oher? Where were we at in 2012 when you guys met each other?
I think I probably had my cousin's blazer on.
With the Suggs jersey underneath, just
No,
Yeah.
you had on
Michael
a
Oher.
Ravens. You had on a Ravens hoodie, is what you had on with the
Oh.
Raven bird in the chest. You were 11 or 12 years old. I remember exactly. I just remember coming away and saying to myself, I even called your mother. I'm like, I never met anybody 12 years old that knows more about his team in football. I actually called your mom up because I was blown away by it. You had every single stat in the team. Is pretty amazing. So I know you bleed your Ravens. So I feel for you, buddy.
All
So
right.
it goes.
I think that therapy is finally over, and we're going to move to move to a different. This is not an emotional one for either of us. I don't think. I think we can just talk about this one, except for maybe Mitch because he's like a sneaky Commanders fan.
which is weird. No one would accuse me of that in my
It's like kind of like this new thing we're all dealing with. Like John's latent sort of Jets homerism. All right, so. The Washington Commanders beat the Lions. The score looks like it was domination. It kind of looked that way, like in terms of score for a lot of the game. Washington wins 45-31. The tail of the tape is a little different. Once again, the team that gained more yards of offense lost the game. Detroit outgained the Commanders by about 40 yards. They passed for more yards. They ran for more yards. Penalties were about even. It was just horrific turnover, like some of it luck, some of it not. Some of it just Jared Goff doing what he does sometimes in big moments. Jared Goff throws 4 interceptions. They lose a fumble. And that's really the tale of the game. And, Commanders kept a clean sheet and scored 45 points. You're going to win games if you don't turn it over and score 45 points. I mean, so I guess the question is, like, was it just injuries that allowed the Commanders to just run up the score? Is there something where Jared Goff can get you pretty deep in the playoffs, but then his brain just breaks in the same way that, the Ravens have been struggling with? What's the problem for the Lions? And is this something that, they can just run it back next year with basically the same roster, pray for better luck and hope that things work out better?
No, they got their ass kicked in this game. Do you realize that Washington punted the ball one time? One punt in an NFC champion, a second round semifinal game. One punt, and that was in the fourth quarter when they were pinned down to the 10-yard line. The game was over. One punt. Didn't stop them one time. They got the ball, they went down the field and scored. They got the ball, they went down the field. They got the ball, they went down the field. It was like watching a pinball machine. I mean, I've never seen anything like this team. I bet against them twice. I'm done. There's this guy, every pass is pinpoint on target. He stands there in the pocket. He doesn't run unless he has to. The maturity he's got for his age is incredible. He reminds me of Marino when he as a rookie, he took the Dolphins to the Super Bowl, then got beat by San Francisco back in I think it was the 80s, early 80s. It's just unbelievable. the team's defense, we keep talking about how bad the Skins defense is or the Commanders defense is. It doesn't matter. This guy scores every time he has the ball. Now, sidebar, okay? Sidebar. That day, I bet an 8-game parlay for $50. You guys go on DraftKings. You win 8 games at $50. That's like several $1,000s, right? I had
also minus 50 in your account.
I bet 8 games, 7 hockey games. By the time this game was at halftime, I won all 7 hockey games. I bet Detroit money line minus 500. Why I even threw them in? Like, I don't even know why. Like 500 minus 500. Like, it's stupid. I said, well, there's no way Washington's going to beat them. I'll just throw that in. I win 7 of the hockey games. I'm watching the Lions game. 8-team parlay at $50. Some of the hockey games I bet were underdogs. So you add that up. And I'm sitting there, and they couldn't stop them one time. I'm done betting against Washington. They're going to win. They're going to go to Philadelphia, and they're going to win this game. Nobody can stop them. The offense is unbelievable. The offensive line blowing everybody off the ball. They run, they pass, this, that. I don't see how the Eagles are going to get beat this whole game. Washington's going.
We'll get to the game preview here in a little bit, but we're reacting still.
We tried to tell you that Washington, there was like a lot of value on that Washington money line. Like we tried to tell you that. So that's
some of us on this panel played the money line.
That's right. Yeah, I played the money line. I mean, I thought they had a great shot. The thing with Detroit is, okay, so 4 interceptions is tough. It's, Baltimore, like being Baltimore, going into Buffalo where it's 4 degrees Kelvin and playing like a team that is always in the AFC Championship and losing at the goal line is not the same thing as playing the 6th or the 7th seed, whatever they are, at home in a dome as the number 1 seed and throwing 4 interceptions. I mean, those two are like apples to oranges, the Ravens and the Lions. This was not the way that the Lions season should have ended. They should be in the NFC Championship. I was all over Washington. I think they're a dangerous team for intangible reasons that you can't really quantify on a spreadsheet. And I think they'll be dangerous in the Philly game for the same reason, even though I think Philly probably, it's not like Detroit, but at the same time, Detroit lost this game before Washington won this game. This was another game. I mean, I think all 4 of these games were like this, where if you put the 2 teams up side by side, like Detroit dominated like everything and still lost. Baltimore dominated everything, lost to Buffalo. I'm pretty sure Houston dominated everything and still lost to Kansas City.
Every team that won was outgained in yardage.
Yeah, but it's the off this. I mean, in the Texans game, they got sacked 8 times.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not defending the Texans, but what I'm saying is, like, obviously 4 turnovers kills you, and I mean, Goff hasn't done that like all year. So against a defense that's kind of weak, and I don't know their statistics, but I'm not sure they forced like a
30th against the run.
So this was
awful.
Yeah, this was a really, really bad loss for Detroit, and I'm glad for Washington. We're all excited for Jaden Daniels. This should be a really fun game. I mean, the Commanders beat the Eagles once again. It should be a lot of fun. But I don't know. I mean, I can't get over the fact that Detroit should be in this NFC Championship. Like, they laid an absolute egg. But if you're a betting, person, that number 1 seeds often do this in the playoffs. They're huge favorite.
It's a bad match. I mean, it was a bad matchup. And to answer your first question, I think Detroit can run it back. When you have 20 injuries on the defensive side of the ball and you've been kind of just getting by, but there's a few teams in the league that you do not want to face when your defense is depleted like that. And that is right now Cliff Kingsbury's offense with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin running the show. And one of the biggest things around here is Cliff's ability to change up his offensive philosophy throughout the year with the help of his players. And they've really all embraced that and done that. And you just can't throw four turnovers. I mean, if Goff has 2 turnovers, they probably somehow figure out a way to win this game because also on the other side, Detroit versus the Commanders defense, we saw that you could exploit that. You just could not have those turnovers. And it seemed like the Commanders just had timely turnovers. Every time my wife would go into the kitchen to get a drink, it'd be like the Commanders intercepted a pass or Jaden Daniels just ran for a first down. So they was one of those like magical, perfect games if you're a Commanders fan, where just everything was happening the right way. And you're right. And hey, Redskins world, what a long, strange trip it's been if I'm being considered a Commanders homer. Because if you all knew me, I was like the hater growing up because, I was the Steelers and all my friends were Skins fans. And when I moved here, they were winning Super Bowls. Joe Gibbs was doing it in 91. That was the third one. And what is insane and what is crazy about this team versus Joe Gibbs's teams, this is the antithesis of a Joe Gibbs team. This is the opposite. Joe Gibbs won with 3 different quarterbacks that can't even sniff the Hall of Fame. Theismann, Doug Williams, Mark Rippon. This Commanders team has no team around them and is all quarterback. It is the exact opposite of what this Commanders and this Redskins fan base had 33 years ago. And so it's exciting and it's unprecedented. And we were talking about, I know on the run sheet is the best rookie season ever. And it probably has to be. I mean, statistically, what Justin Herbert maybe, but when you turn around a franchise that's 4-13 and then do this and go to the championship game with the potential to
MVP,
win,
baby.
It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, they are riding and thriving with Jaden Daniels, and the buzz is as real. I mean, it's like, RG3 level was high, but not, this surpasses that.
This is higher. Let me throw another tidbit out there, which I think is going to be, is a real possibility that because the RFK Stadium, which is in downtown Washington, which I love, that you can walk right there. It's now, they play soccer and it's needs to major repairs. But there's a pretty good opportunity that is on federal land, and it's a pretty good opportunity that the Trump administration is going to let DC lease that back to the Redskins, refurbish RFK, keep the name RFK. That's going to be one of the stipulations. It's got to be RFK Stadium, and they're going to refurbish this and move the Redskins back downtown. I tell you what, if that happens, I don't care what their name is, Commanders, Redskins, Commies, whatever, like Joe calls them, doesn't matter. They move Washington Football Club downtown, and you got that RFK Stadium. People that were there during the glory days tell me that the stadium, they could feel it shake under their feet.
It would rock. Yeah, it rocks.
It would rock.
Yeah.
I mean, and to just go down, now that I'm in DC during the week, I go by it every day. I mean, that's going to be fun. I really hope they do that, because FedEx Field is a horror story. You can't get there. You can't park. Stadium sucks. I hope they get back to and keep it RFK Stadium.
Me too.
Any final reactions to the Commanders-Lions game that anyone wants to get in? All right. Let's well, I guess we should probably talk a little bit about our longtime sponsor, MyPillow, is giving away everything right now. John, tell them what they're giving away.
MyPillow, $14.98. You're never going to see that again. Slippers are on sale, but if you don't have their towels, $29.98. Normally $49.98 with promo code Godzilla. $29.98. You get free shipping right up through the end of January. Money back guarantee through March 31st. MyPillow right now, rocking and rolling. But if you don't have the MyPillow towels, they're gonna change the way you look at towels. They're so great. I mean, just go there, go to all I outfitted our whole Washington apartment and studio with MyPillow. We saved probably $2,000 minimum, but everything is there. Those towels are to die for, because the towels you get today, they're garbage. They don't even dry you. These towels are something else. Plus they got the dish towels. All you got to do, folks, and they've been a sponsor of us from the beginning. And not only that, they actually tune into Godzilla Wins every week. They love this show. They've been a great sponsor. Dawn, thank you for all you do. Go to mypillow.com, mypillow.com/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla. Got your pillows, got your Giza sheets, pillowcases, everything on sale. Do it now. And if you get nothing else, get those towels for $29.98, because he's giving them away, mypillow.com.
Okay. We've finally made it to the game preview portion of the show, where we are previewing our best bets for the weekend. We're going to lead off with the Commanders and Eagles. The Eagles are a 6-point home favorite. The total is set at 47 and a half, depending on where you bet your sports. I mean, this feels like a game that Philly should win. I'm going to give Peter the first crack at this and tell us sort of what he's looking for this game and what his expected outcome is.
Yeah, I think if you're an Eagles fan, there's no doubt you were relieved to not have to go to Detroit and play a Commanders team who, I guess, you look at it on paper, at least from what we thought, they're overperforming right now. But that familiarity is definitely also a point of concern, just because that Week 16 matchup that these two had, where Hurts goes down and the Commanders actually win. That was the Eagles' defense. Like, the starters were out there. That wasn't a fluke, and they scored, I believe, 33 points in that game, up and down the field. And I think what you guys were hitting at, 33 points. And what you guys were hitting at from the divisional round was like Jaden Daniels has answers for everything. And, we've often criticized the Cliff Kingsbury offense for just from the Arizona years of kind of tailing off towards the end of the year. But right now, what you see is an offense that attacks every level of the field and can generate explosives at every level of the field. Whether it was the screen to Terry McLaurin or hitting deep shots to De'Ami Brown. Like, De'Ami Brown is coming into his own for the Commanders right now. And then Daniels' ability to, it's kind of a Holmesian, his ability to, keep in front of the chains and extend plays, and just the number of negative plays is so few with this team. And so, it's like that. The Commanders really stressed out that Eagles defense. And so this might be a situation where it's a shootout, which, if you're Philadelphia, I don't think you're going to feel comfortable, just given, their lack of relying on the passing game. Like, if they have to go to that a little bit, I don't know. It might put them in a weird spot.
I love Washington.
I think you're
okay.
Go ahead, Jack. I'm sorry.
I think you're right about the Daniels Mahomesian sort of ways in which he's able to extend those plays and make passes that are a little bit improbable. I'm kind of reminded too of like Joe Burrow during that run where they had like an awful offensive line, got to the Super Bowl just on sort of sheer Joe Burrow will. Maybe that happens again. I will say, as a resident of Phoenix, the Phoenix sports talk, the "We Miss You" Cliff like narrative has just been growing into an orchestral symphony on Phoenix sports talk. Like, all of a sudden, the last like a month or two, it's just been like, what was so wrong with Cliff Kingsbury? So how quickly we forget how much of a disaster that kind of was at the end. For Cliff there, but these coordinators, they rehabilitate themselves all the time in these situations. I don't know. If I'm handicapping it, I guess I like the over the most. I think the spread's like 6 or something. I just don't know what to do, because there's part of me that thinks, like Peter mentioned this last week, maybe the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. Like, maybe the Eagles win the Super Bowl. They certainly looked pretty good last week, and yet I have a hard time saying I'm going to lay 6 against a team that just is being weird. They're just giant, Eli Manning Giants level weird right now. And I don't know if I can just lay 6 just because I'm like, the Eagles, can stop this train, which seems to be moving forward in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. It's very exciting for the NFL to have this sort of new element that could end up in the Super Bowl, possibly against Patrick Mahomes, where everybody will be rooting for the Commanders, which also is Dan Snyder's worst nightmare, which would be another reason to root for the Commanders, just to keep Dan Snyder on.
Front page of ESPN is rumblings that Dan Snyder is unhappy. I don't know why that's a story. I didn't click on it, but
you're at home, you're in the snow, you're playing a team that basically was the weakest conference winner. You got everything going for you. And if not for an illegal procedure penalty on the 8-yard line and a sack allowed in the A gap, which is a absolute no-no at that position, somebody comes around the end, I get it. A gap snack, the center turns the wrong way. Absent of those two things, we're talking about Rams Commanders. Rams should have won that game. They went right down the field. They had a first and goal in the 8 in Philadelphia. They were going to win that game, except for 2 plays that they screwed up on. So you turn around. Eagles just didn't look that good. Jack nailed it. Jack said a week ago, he nailed these both. He said Washington had a shot to win, take the 6 or the 7. And he said the Rams were going to win this game. And they should have. The Rams outplayed Philadelphia in this game on the road, and they're not that good. Now you're going to turn around, and all of a sudden, magically, they're gonna stop this juggernaut of an offense that scores every time they get the ball. They're moving it down the field. The guy never throws an interception. I don't think so. I think this, to me, is Philadelphia's worst possible matchup. They're catching a team that is on fire. They're hot. They're fearless. And you look at this kid, okay? You look at him. After the game, what does he do? Hey, I want to thank my teammates. You know what? I want to thank the Lord and my Savior, Jesus Christ. I want to thank the fans. I want to thank everybody around me. You know what? We're just going to go out and do the best we can and try to win the game. Hey, by the way, thank you for your time. The politest, nicest, God-fearing Christian kid at his age, and he thanks everybody. And I mean, there's something about this young fella that is special. And I'm going to be damned if I'm betting against him when this kid he just gets the ball. How many times? 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6. First down, first down, first down, first down. I've never seen anything like it. It's almost like you don't want to miss the game just to see what this young fella is going to do. This is the Eagles' worst nightmare. Washington's going to win this whole game.
It's a bad matchup for the Commanders, though. If you really look at it from top to bottom. I mean, I think Mark Schlereth said it this week. The only position that the Commanders are better at on the entire 22 is at quarterback. And if you really look down at it, you can make an argument for that. The reason it's a bad matchup, I'm not saying I'm going to bet against the Commanders, but middle pressure or just pressure from that front four can ruin and wreck the most mobile quarterbacks. And the Eagles, if they scheme it right, can do enough, I think, to hold Jaden back. And as long as the Eagles don't turn the ball over, they should have a field day against this defense with Barkley. So
that's what we said a week ago.
I get it. And with 4 turnovers by Goff, and that's the reason for it. It feels like.
Wait a minute. Then but before that, they went to Tampa and blew out the Bucks. Basically,
no, they barely beat the Bucks. Baker had a fumble in the fourth quarter.
The Bucks didn't stop him either.
I'm not. This team. But the Eagles can't stop them. You know, I think if there's a team that can stop them, and they have this season, I mean, so it's going to be a good matchup. I'm going to go with the Commanders +6 because there's just something there. But I disagree with the Eagles being the worst conference champion. They are a loaded team.
I'm talking about the Rams. The Rams were, and Jack on this show, and then he texted me after that and said, I can't believe you're betting the Eagles. The Rams are going to win this game. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to. Philadelphia at home, snow, cold, blah, 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 defensive line, blah, 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 all this, blah, blah, blah. It's all paper. Football, the games are not played on paper. They're played on the field.
And on the field, the Eagles won. And the Eagles won the game.
In the words of Tom Coughlin,
Philadelphia
in the words of the great Tom Coughlin, talk is cheap, paper gets torn up, play the game. I'm with Coughlin. Eagles are going to win.
I don't think that's a Tom Coughlin quote. Okay, first off, I forgot about the Rams. You guys reminded me of my new favorite team. I haven't even been listening. I just was looking at Rams drip. I got to get some of these hats. I'm going to become a Rams fan. I was so depressed after that game because I was all in for the Rams and then they failed me, which was tough for me for lots of different reasons. I'm not sure why I care about the Rams, but maybe I'll just become a Rams fan. So I'm gonna get a hat, and maybe a shirt,
throwback,
LA Rams guy. Yeah, that's right. Now, as far as the Eagles did win, so I don't know what we're talking about. Like the Eagles won. You know, Peter mentioned this last week that the Eagles are probably the best team in the NFL. I think logic says the Washington run stops here. I'm just worried that sometimes the NFL defies logic.
So the Eagles are like a good matchup for against the Command. Like this favors the Eagles. Like the worst, like if you just look at it like on like the most basic sort of handicapping level, which is like, okay, like what are like the best units on the field and like what are the worst units on the field? And it's like the Commanders' run defense is probably the worst unit on the field. Like and if you look at like what the best is, like it's probably close. Like Jaden Daniels elevates that offense a lot, but like Saquon Barkley has run for basically historic numbers, and there's also Jalen Hurts, and I have a hard time thinking that like Saquon isn't going to have a lot of success against the Commanders' defense, and Jaden Daniels is only good if he can get on the field. But if Philly can just run the ball down their throat, I mean, there was a real argument that like if Detroit had just run the ball every single play, they might have won that game against the Commanders. Like that's like a real thing. Like if you just don't let Jared Goff throw it very much and you just keep handing it to Gibbs and like the backs in Detroit, like that's probably a winning formula. And if Philly can do that, it feels like a winning formula to me. I mean, so the Commanders are the 8th team since 2000 to enter a playoff game as their 4th straight road game. So, like a deep seed. They're 0-7 straight up in these situations when they make it to the conference championships. And they're 1-5-1 against the spread. Like this is where like there's some real separation from these teams. So from that perspective, the Commanders are looking to be the first team ever to win their 4th straight road game in the playoffs since 2000. They're looking to be the first like team like to do it with like a rookie quarterback. So I mean, there's so many things that have to happen for Washington that you're like, this would be truly historic and like against everything we've ever seen in the NFL for the history of the NFL. And then everyone on this panel is like, but Washington is good. And it's like, yeah, but there's a lot of history that suggests that like Washington's good, but this is the moment where they fail. And that's sort of where my head is at, is like, I think that's why I think Philly's going to win. I mean,
so are you going to lay the 6?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's probably the right play, but
I'm taking the 6.
Oh, I got crushed last week, man. I had backdoors everywhere. That 2-point conversion in the Kansas City game, the safety. I mean, safety. I had him at 9.5, and I had like 2 units. I mean, I had like car payments on that thing.
Yeah. I had.
I like. I just like the over. I mean, I still think even if like Philly dominates the run game or whatever, I still think Washington's going to score some points. 47.5. I'm not scared of in a game like this. I think things can get really weird. So I like the over, but I don't know. I'm not going to touch the spread because I'm too scared of the Commanders as the team of destiny. But if they're not, then look, the Eagles are going to be a really tall task for Patrick Mahomes.
I like Nate's point about them control and with Hurts hurt. I think they're going to run the ball and have an even more emphasis on Saquon Barkley. That could shorten the game. So the over, I think that's probably why that over number is so enticing. It looks a little low, but I think there's going to be some ball control.
There's going to be some ball control, and if Washington really sells out to stop the run and to stop Saquon, like Hurts might be playing with a brace. He might be a little bit limited in his mobility, but also like don't forget that AJ Brown has been wanting the ball for a little while, and if Washington's really selling out, like AJ Brown could eat against this.
There he is whining again. I mean, just shut up. Just try to get to the Super Bowl, dude. What's the difference if you get the ball or not? That's not about you.
This might be about a team. To get the ball.
It's about an Eagles team trying to get to the Super Bowl and give their fans some hope. Just shut up. Get off social media and stop bitching about
John, it's all about daily affirmations.
I am so sick of this guy. I'm so sick of all of these bitches. Shut up and play the game. Shut up. I mean, I'm not getting the ball enough. You're not getting the ball enough because Shaquan Barkley is like the greatest
other game. I mean, like this is just him grinding an axe about how he's mad that AJ Brown's not a Titans fan. Let's just move on to that.
Shut up.
Doggone it, I'm good.
You're in a sour mood today, Jack. You must have been losing all your hockey bets. I'm winning hockey bets, so I'm always in a good mood.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not in a sour mood. For some reason, you're coming in hot with all of these like ridiculous takes. Like the show, like 2 years ago when we had to control what you like said on the air because you were, actively like working against like objective logic, and so you've like reverted back to that instead of some of your more nuanced takes where you kind of grew over the last 2 years, and we saw
go to GodzillaWins.com daily picks and get my hockey picks there. I'm the hockey analyst. on this panel. Nobody can touch me. I'm on fire. I'm winning every day. My record in the NHL is incredible. And I pick a lot of underdogs too. So we'll see what I have today. I had to take off Friday because I had to drive all the way back from DC or whatever in the cold weather. But I'm going to be back on tonight, ready for some NHL hockey. And hey, Mitch, by the way, you look fabulous since you've been taking that collagen. You look so much better.
And my ring light.
Did.
I got a ring light too.
I mean, yeah, the ring light, the collagen, right? See, I turned Mitch on to it. Look how great he looks, right?
Thank you. Yep.
You're looking fabulous. Can't wait to see the next couple weeks on the show. Now, if you want to look great, feel great, lose weight because you get more energy, you got to get collagen. It's the number one protein as you get older your body needs, and it depletes out. There's no way to replenish it with today's Frankenstein meat. Dr. Chad Walding has this thing nailed. This guy and his collagen has made a huge difference in my life and everybody in my family. All I ask you to do is check it out. It's what did Nate say? It's $1 a day. $1 a day to look better and feel better. Oh my God, are you kidding me? All you got to do, that was good, Nate, by the way. I never thought of that. All you have to do is go to nativepath.com/Godzilla, nativepath.com/Godzilla, and you're going to get everything right there. Get your collagen now. Put 2 scoops a day in your coffee or your milk or your smoothie, whatever you want. Your tea, can't taste it. 2 weeks, you're going to feel better and look better. My hair's growing back, right, Mitch? So all you got to do, well, get Native Path because you've only been out of it.
Give it a chance, Mitch.
Give it a chance, Mitch. Your
hair's sprouting through.
Back. Get nativepath.com/Godzilla. You're good to go. $1 a day. Save up to 50%. It's unbelievable. It's magic.
All right. We got one more game to talk about, 10 minutes or so. So we got a little time. The Buffalo Bills are traveling to Kansas City in a familiar game. Kansas City is a 1.5 point favorite. Totals 48.5. So a little on the high side. I'm going to lead with Peter again. I mean, what are you looking for in this game, Peter?
I mean, awesome quarterback play, right? Like the last time, pretty much it's guaranteed every time these two meet. Another situation where, a lot of times we talk about rivalries in the NFL. This is a real one. And Josh, and it's not even, it becomes tangible. Like Josh Allen runs the ball or scrambles the ball 3% more against the Chiefs than any other team in the league, right? Like it matters more to him, to the team, and the stakes. I mean, it's going to matter no matter who it is. But yeah, I mean, the Bills are kind of, looking to avenge what happened last year. You saw what they did against the Ravens. They are, playing free on offense. I think without, whether it's no digs, they just do what they have to do, right? They're kind of embracing what the Chiefs have been on, which is that sometimes, it's going to be every pass is quick, right? If teams take away the explosives. And Josh Allen is finally, toned down some of the crazy devil-may-care gunslinger antics and just winning football games. You compare what he did last week against Lamar, totally in control, right? Not looking to win the game in one play and trusting the defense, which came through. So, yeah, I look at it and I think there's a lot to be excited about, especially from, just given the history of how the Bills have, been able to give the Chiefs stress in ways that other teams haven't.
Yeah, I mean, anyone else can sort of weigh in, but I'll weigh in a little bit here. I mean, this feels just like I think that the Bills will play hard. I think that, Josh Allen rushing props are always money in these situations. We've talked about it on the show before. Josh Allen always runs in big games a little bit more. He tends to be a little bit freer. He just totally sells out his body and everything else to try and win games. I think that, if you're looking for prop angles, Josh Allen rushing is always the first place I'd look. But at the end of the day, Kansas City just feels inevitable. I mean, it just feels like we're going for 3 in a row. It feels like, to me, looking at these two games, we just get a carbon copy of last season, which is Eagles, Chiefs win. I mean, it's boring. And I know that everyone hates it, and I can like hear like groans, but that's what it feels like. I mean, the Chiefs give me no reason. Like Josh Allen, for all of his great play, asked for like 150 yards last game. Like he did enough to get them the win, but he wasn't like spectacular. They move the ball pretty well. But the Chiefs just look like, Steve Spagnuolo is going to dial it up. This isn't their first rodeo. It's far from it. It just feels like Chiefs to me here, like all the way.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Oh no, all I was going to, yeah, I mean, it absolutely feels that way because we've seen the script. This is the third time they're playing in the playoffs together. Josh Allen has played tremendous in those playoff games for the most part, only one interception. So if you're Josh Allen and the Bills, you stay and play within your means. You don't try to push. I mean, and that's really hard because you're dealing with history right now. It's your third time playing Mahomes. You're one of the greatest quarterbacks of the era. You're starting to feel it. Like you know, your window is now. You need to do this. So I think that's probably tough for Josh to, compartmentalize that and not feel the moment, but that's what he needs to do. Just play the same game he's played and just see how it works out at the end. And ultimately it probably comes down to the team that has home field advantage, and that's the Chiefs again, unfortunately. But Josh, that's got to be frustrating too. Josh has done nothing wrong in those games and he still loses. So I think he's just, he just can't be the one that loses the game. Just stay within yourself. And then hopefully it just goes your way this time. But yeah, you're right. It almost seems inevitable, even though the world has to be rooting for the rematch of the Bills and the Skins from 92.
Well, but I mean, like, as Josh Allen has gotten better and he's the presumably MVP of the season, Josh Allen's level of play has increased. But what people haven't been talking about is that Josh Allen's expensive. They have expensive players on their roster that has forced them to jettison a lot of good players from previous seasons. So like this is like one of the weaker sort of overall teams, and Josh Allen has been forced to sort of carry this team on his back in ways that quarterbacks in the NFL do because of like the cap situation. So, I'd like to think that, Josh Allen finally breaks through, but this is not his probably strongest team. It might be the strongest he's playing, but overall it's not the strongest team.
No. And this is what happens. Like, I don't know why we're like resisting history. Like the Chiefs are going to win this game. They always do. There's no reason to 2 points is not 6. Like just lay the 2. This is what they do. They've looked dominant in the playoffs. Peter said last week that he feels like the Chiefs are bored during the regular season. That seems to have been the case. Travis Kelce has done barely anything all regular season. Now all of a sudden he's back to dominating the midfield like he does all the time. The defense is just swarming. I mean, the Bills didn't look that good against the Ravens at home. Yeah, Josh Allen's going to run the ball. I hope the Bills win so we get a little bit of diversity, I guess, in the Super Bowl. That'd be nice. It's so homogenous these days with the Chiefs, but we're also witnessing, I think, the first three-peat in history, right? So, maybe it seems like I think the Chiefs win this game, and I think they probably win it by more than 2. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I mean, we're resisting something that is inevitable, and they get a lot of help from the refs. Anyone who says they don't is ridiculous. I mean, they do. They get a ton of help from the refs, and that's going to continue.
It all ends. I'm going the opposite way of everybody else here, just like I did with Washington. I think just me and Mitch. I'm going the opposite here. I know Arrowhead. I know the whole thing. Chiefs didn't look that good against the Texans last week. There was a lot of people that think the Texans actually could have won that game without any turnovers. They haven't looked. I know they squeaked these games out all season, but this Buffalo team, that win against Baltimore, that was a defining win in my opinion. And I think they come in there loose. I think they come in confident. The cold weather doesn't matter. Yes, on paper they're not really as good as whatever, but Josh Allen is just having one of them crazy seasons, and Mahomes is Mahomes. This is going to be a really good game. Everybody's looking forward to it. I think three-peat's tough. This is the year the Bills get the monkey off their back, go to Kansas City, win this game. I like the Bills.
Well, yeah. And then when Jack said, we need to follow history. If you're following history, that's not the Chiefs because,
that's right.
Because no one's ever done it, and no one's really come close in those championship games either. It's always been kind of a one-sided affair. So it is the toughest thing to do. One of the toughest things in sports to do. So
Let's go Bills.
Yeah, let's go Bills, man.
It's
All
going
right,
to be more. Look,
we
I
got like
think
1 minute here. Go ahead. Let's just go around the horn for those listeners that maybe got a little lost in the weeds of our analysis, and just give out our picks for each game. I like Philly -6. I like the Chiefs -1.5 or 2, depending on where you get it. John, what do you like?
I'm going to take Washington +6. They're going to win the whole game. And I love the Bills +1.5. They're going to win the game too. Bills, Washington, Super Bowl.
John's on the underdog, so we're all in trouble. Mitch.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even step foot in my nephew's house if I don't take the Commanders. So I'm going Commanders +6 here. It's strictly a vibe and heart thing. And the Bills. I'm going with the Bills. I talked myself into it because people just don't go to the Super Bowl 3 times, man. It doesn't happen. Let's go
Peter,
Bills.
what do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to thread the needle on Washington. I think, give them the +6, probably Eagles squeak it out. And then Chiefs, I'm not going to be the one to say that they're going to go from 11-0 in close games to 11-1 now.
Voice of reason.
Jack, what do you like?
Chiefs -2 over in the Eagles Commanders game. I think there'll be more scoring than people
All
think.
right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. That was the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. If you're loving the sports vibes, don't change the station because Golf with Jay Delsing is going to be up next. Good luck this weekend.